Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. Did you come here to hear me sing this morning? Probably not. Will I? Yes. Today, team, we're going to be talking about your favorite things, ideal clients, niches, preferred client, soul client, whatever you want to call them. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive onto niche, onto ideal clients, and big fat caveat. We don't talk about this a lot on podcasts or workshops or anything like that, because for most people who are just starting out, if you have less than 10 paid coaching hours, this is not where you need to be fixating on and using your time for. Your niche in the nurse coach community most of the time finds you, whether it is a previous version of you from 2 to 3 years ago that you can help that person, help that version of you solve some problems, make life a little easier. It's usually your ideal client is if you look in the review mirror of the past versions of yourself, things that you've overcome, that usually is what it ends up being. However, sometimes it's not, and that's okay too. But usually your ideal client ends up finding you through coaching, through taking action, through spending time with real humans. It's the easiest way to find your ideal client or your niche if you don't have one already. And I want to talk today about like, how do we pull these people in? So once we're able to identify them, like nurses with burnout or overwhelmed moms or people who are entering retirement, or oh gosh, what's a new one? Women wanting to embrace their divine feminine energy, like whatever our niche may be. Once we're able to identify them, how do we pull them in, right? How do we attract them into our community, into our network? So I want to give you guys some reflection points today and see what comes up for you. Just know that you do not have to start here. Please hear me. Take a blood oath. Shelby, I will not waste time here if I am still in certification or if I am a new coach. Like, it's not necessary to begin. However, these can be good questions to have floating around in your brain just as you move forward. So, Laura and I are really big fans of organic marketing here, building an organic network that potentially is filled with ideal people that you could work with, that you can help. And if you are struggling, we feel like we're talking to the wrong person and the wrong version of the person you want to connect with, this could be a good reflection point for you as well. So step one, we're going to get to define your ideal client. And this is where so many people get hung up. So again, if you are new, don't get hung up here. Turn off your ears, turn off this episode and come back later. But some easy questions here on who can you work with, who can you help. As a nurse coach, you're probably starting to pick up that we resonate with certain people and we don't resonate with others, and that's okay. But here's some easy questions of like, who do you love working with? And you see how coaching experience is necessary to answer these questions. Like, what are your pro bono clients like? What are your first paid clients like? Is there a certain type of woman or man that keeps coming into your sphere because they are naturally attracted to what you talk about, to your coaching, to your work? What challenges or pain points do they have? Is it overwhelmed moms? Is it disconnected? Is it a loss of identity while going through menopause? Is it nurses in burnout? Is it GI issues, hormone issues? Is it, what are some other ones here? A lack of confidence that people are experiencing. Like, who do you love working with and what problems are they wrestling with? And if it's helpful to go back through your notes and see how did the pro bono clients, how did your first paid clients describe what they were going to. Why did they say yes to a coaching conversation? What did they want to work on? Use their language. Super, super helpful. And then the third question here is, how do you help them? How do you help them solve their problem? In our preceptorship course, we have a whole module on this, a whole workbook on this, on how you help people solve their problems. And I know that nurse coaches have a tough time nailing that down because they don't want to be too prescriptive. And I agree. We want to leave room for the magic to happen. But even if the ways that you help people is like having them do a nutrition log, or having them do a values assignment, or having them do journal reflections, it can really be super simple, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Keeping it easy, keeping it simple. Like that can be your process, and we can flow with it as we go. Like if you are a yoga instructor and you have clients that love yoga, and then you have other clients that are not into yoga at all, and it would be forcing your agenda on them to get them to practice yoga, then like don't do that. We don't have to do that. We can pick and choose what we need and what's in best service for where your client is at. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was recording there. I freaked myself out, thought that I wasn't. Okay, so who do you love working with? Having real client data to pull from is super helpful. That's why I say don't start here if you haven't coached yet. What challenges, what pain points do they have? And how do you help them solve those problems? So, if it is helpful to journal on these things, take a pause. I like to name my client avatars like Sally or Genevieve, or so that they feel like a real person on who I'm talking to. Some of my most favorite clients that I've worked with in the past heavily inspire who I want to call in. And so I'll use real life client interactions, data points, their language on how they describe their problem to put into my marketing, so that other people like them will read it and be like, oh, that's me. That's me. Shelby can help me. All right, team. Step 2 here. So we have to like know who we're talking to and how you help them. It's where people get hung up the most. I know I'm going to keep saying it. Don't start here if you haven't coached 10 paid coaching hours. And even if you have, just know that you're probably going to redo this exercise like 400 times. And you're not doing it wrong. That's just how it goes. Step 2, show up authentically in your marketing. Authenticity, the buzzwords of the century. But here's the deal, team. The way I define authenticity is not like the highest, most ascended version of yourself that has all of their shit together and every detail figured out and they never suffer. But I think embracing the authentic you is accepting both the highs and the lows of who you are and where you are at as a person. And I think, not to toot our own horns here, but Laura and I do this pretty well to where, I mean, we don't share every nitty-gritty detail of my life. I'm not a reality star quite yet, but we share honestly, we share openly, we share the wins, we share the losses, we share the painful moments along with the high moments. That is what people are attracted to. That is true authenticity, of like embracing the fullest version of yourself rather than picking and choosing only the pretty parts. And so sharing your story, sharing the nitty gritty. And there's some art and nuance to this of like, we don't want to put people on blast, or we don't want to write stories from open wounds. We want to write from scars. Like there's a whole another layer of advice I want to give you here. So if you're a client of mine and you're confused, let me know. But like I want to know your why behind becoming a nurse coach, your why behind working with overwhelmed moms, your why behind working with nurses. Like I want you to answer this question so deeply and so viscerally that it makes you want to cry. That like I was working with a client earlier this week, and she works with overwhelmed moms. That's why the example is top of my mind. And she's like, I was like, why do you care about overwhelmed moms? And she's like, well, because moms need better support and better nutrition. I can't even remember what she said. It was, and I told her, I was like, that's too flat. We need it to be juicier. Like, what's the real reason that you really, really care about overwhelmed moms? What is your story about being an overwhelmed mom? And the next thing out of her mouth, she was like, well, overwhelmed moms are not fun to be around. Like, they're not fun. They're not fun family members. They're not fun friends. I was like, yeah, that. Like, why do we really, really care about that? And we pulled on the thread for a few more moments. But like, why do you care? What makes your heart bleed for this particular population? Why can't you stop talking about it? And a lot of times is like we just don't have to be perfect and polished when we do talk about it. Vulnerability and honesty go so much farther in building trust than overly curated content or perfectly curated content. So share your journey, whether it's about leaving traditional nursing, overcoming burnout, overcoming overwhelm, or your own health transformation, whatever your story is. And these stories allow potential clients to see themselves in you, in your mess, and trust that you understand their struggles. Whenever I got diagnosed with my aneurysm, I would have paid I would have paid money to talk to somebody who was a mom, who had young kids, who survived open heart surgery. I wanted to know in explicit detail what actually like walk me through the day of surgery. Tell me how bad it's going to hurt because my surgeon cannot. My surgeon can tell me the risks and he can tell me how great he is and he can tell me that he's got me, but he's never been the patient on the OR table. So there's still a bit of a disconnect here for me. And, I share from time to time about that story, and inevitably I've connected with a few people who are about to have their own open heart surgery that are similar in my age that also have young kids. And I talk to them on the phone, and it's like this instant kinship that we have, this instant knowing that we have. And there was a woman that I connected with a few years ago, and I just remember crying. I can't even remember this person's name, but I just remember that we sobbed together on the phone because she was like, "Can you be honest with me and tell me what it's going to be like to say goodbye to my daughter?" And um, I said, it's gonna be the hardest thing you're ever gonna do. It'll be harder than the surgery. It's gonna be the hardest thing you're ever going to do. And waking up off that OR table, you're gonna be so glad that you did because we know what happens if you don't, right? And like no one else could be in that space with her because no one else has lived it the same way that we have lived it. And this allows people to feel connected to you. Don't really know how to transition to the next section. That was really intense, but you get my point, right? Of that vulnerability, transparency, they're again not putting your whole life on blast to where it's like we're attention seeking, but sharing lessons learned is so powerful online. It allows people to invites people into your world, it invites them to care, right? It's so powerful. Um, so also we have to like be semi-consistent here, whether it's on social media or email newsletters or hosting, events in person, whatever it may be. We have to be consistent. All right. Next step 3 into attracting your ideal clients. We have to like make content that speaks to their struggle. So, if you don't want to do content creation or social media or anything, this is not for you, but most of you will. Most of you do. So blog posts, social media, podcasts, videos, your content should address the pain points that you help people with. In the beginning, just getting started, we don't have to have this figured out. I've literally helped people create money out the yin yang without having this particular part figured out. But asking yourself the questions of what are my ideal clients struggling with? What questions do they frequently ask? How can I offer value? How can I offer service through educational type content, tips, tricks, or coaching insights? I want to pause here and iterate over and over and over and over that this is often really simple tips and tricks. You are all at step 100 and your ideal client is at step 1. So, like yesterday, I was with a mentorship group. We were talking about some nervous system regulation tips for our workshop. And I was like, we were brainstorming, and I was like, so many people just are on autopilot. They don't even know what a nervous system is. They cannot connect to a feeling within their body at all. So, like, we don't have to go full blown somatic session, but we can do like box breathing or extended exhales or putting their feet on the ground, like during the workshop, making them pick up their laptop or pick up their phone and go outside and put their feet on the earth. Like it does not have to be the most complicated protocol. You don't have to be particularly certified to guide people through that type of breath work support. Um, but really, really simple tips and tricks are the name of the game. Bring it back to step one. And if you're like, Shelby, that's too simple. People already know that. No, they don't. I promise. I promise they don't. There might be some that do, but I promise majority of the people you will be connecting with just don't they don't know. They don't care about personal development or somatic work or overwhelmed moms or functional nutrition. They don't care about any of that stuff the way that you do. You have spent years, likely a decade at least, passively learning, intentionally learning about this topic. I promise that they don't. They don't spend their off time Googling, alternative treatments to menopause. I promise they don't. So, um, keep it simple. Your content does not have to be complicated. It can be super, super easy. All right. How do we create a community around this, right? Building relationships through engagement. So, organic marketing, the only strategy here is that you're building relationships with humans. However, we're going to do that. So focusing on engaging with your audience, with the people who respond to your stuff, with thoughtful comments, responding to DMs, and starting genuine, regular conversations with people. You want to create a sense of community where your people feel seen and they feel heard and they feel supported. Whenever people are like, I just want to coach for free. Charging money makes me feel weird. I'm like, this is not necessarily coaching, like responding to DMs, but this is where you're going to do a lot of free work. This is where you're going to do a lot of service-led work. And it's a big time commitment. It's a super big time. Okay, that's dramatic. It's an intentional time commitment, I should say. You have to intentionally build the communities. They just don't happen. You are the leader. So lead, so lead. So this can also look like, 10 to 15 minutes every day engaging with folks in your audience or on your preferred platform, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. Ask questions, follow up, check in, talk to people. Talk to people. Be in community with people. All right, last step here, team. So call to actions without a hard sell. So organic marketing isn't about the hard sell. We don't teach hard sell techniques. We just don't. It doesn't land for most of us here in the community. And whenever you see coaches who do hard sells, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But it's more about positioning yourself as an expert, as a leader, and that people can trust you to guide them to getting the transformation that they are seeking. You might not have all of the answers, and that's okay. You are not a cult leader to where you have to have all the answers, but you're a Sherpa of sorts. We're on this trail together. We're walking together on this path. So once you've built trust through your content, through engagement, we don't have to hesitate to invite people in to booking a call with you. Um, this could be simple call to actions, right? Like inviting them to book a free discovery call, downloading a freebie, or to join your group coaching program. The key here is to make this feel like a natural step, but not a forced sales pitch, which we're all, terrified about. So a good example of this is like if you're feeling overwhelmed and you'd like to start creating more balance, more freedom in your life, more freedom with your kiddos and your marriage, go ahead, book a free discovery call with me. Be happy to see if I can help you. And if I can't, I'll tell you. People love that transparency of like if I'm not the one, I'll be sure to tell you. I'll be honest. Um, so I think team attracting your ideal clients is a lot easier than you think. You just have to let go of what you think it's going to look like and embrace it for what it is. Attracting your ideal client does not mean that people are going to show up in your email or come to you through your website and just throw money at you. If that happens, let me know. I would love to be proven wrong. Um, But attraction marketing means that you are being visible in a way where people can connect with you. It requires you to be visible online, visible, or in person, or both. Um, Showing up as the authentic, real, messy you, building relationships. And when you're consistent with these steps, people will be naturally drawn to you no matter what. You cannot say the wrong thing. You can't post too much. You can't do too much. You will never be too much, and you will always be enough for the right people. I had a friend from college reach out to me the other day, and she's wanting to start her own business, and not related to coaching whatsoever. But she messages me often, and she's like, "I know that your posts are meant for nurse coaches." She's like, "But they also speak to me too. So thank you for putting it out there." And so my niche is so hard on the nurse coach, and she's not even a nurse. She's a regular human, a non-nurse human. And yeah, she still gets value out of what I share and how I show up online. Um, so team, what do you think? This one's a little short and sweet. I wanna hold space for what questions you have, and I also want to end here and remind you that don't start here. Promise me you won't start here. If you are new, don't get hung up here. If you are new, if you are brand new and you want support on like how do I create those first 10 paid clients or 10 paid coaching hours, join our program, Make the Leap, or talk to me about Make the Leap because that's exactly what we help you do in there. You do not have to have a niche to be inside Make the Leap. You do not have to have a content plan or a marketing strategy whatsoever. We really, really do take you from 0 paid clients to your first paid client with none of this. You don't have to have any of it figured out. And like I mentioned at the beginning, most ideal client avatars or niches find you the more you coach. If you are unclear, that's how my niche found me. When I was a new nurse coach, I coached lots of different people from fellow nurses to interior designers to real estate agents. I my ideal client is if you have a problem and I think I can help you, I was going to propose. I was open to learning, and I just over time really preferred working with nurses, and then that eventually morphed into nurse coaches, and it's kind of like swung back around to nurses. So it's a great time. It's a journey, an ever evolving journey, and we just have to start. We just have to take the first step. All right, team. I'll see you same time, same place. Bye.